Late at night, the 20th floor stands empty. A janitor mops the marble floor. Then he hears it. Piano notes, clumsy and disconnected, coming from the music room. He walks toward the sound. Inside, a blind girl sits at the grand piano. Her small fingers search for the keys. He sits at the second piano. "May I join you?" She smiles, tilts her head to listen. Two pairs of hands, one rough and worn, one small and delicate. They begin to play together. Behind the half-open door, a woman in a white suit stands frozen. Tears stream down her face. His name is Jack Rowan, 42 years old, single father, janitor at the Helios Group building. But Jack was not always a janitor. 10 years ago, he played piano in a military orchestra. His wife would sit in the front row at every performance. Her smile was the only audience he needed. Then came the accident, a drunk driver. One night that changed everything. She did not survive. Jack stopped playing. The piano became a memory too painful to touch. He took the first job he could find, a job where no one asked questions, where he could disappear into the rhythm of mopping floors and emptying trash cans. He raised his daughter alone. Every dollar went to her future. Every sacrifice was worth it. But tonight, something pulls him back. The girl at the piano. She cannot be more than 9 years old. Her eyes do not move, do not focus. She is blind. Yet her fingers move across the keys with determination. She plays by ear. No sheet music, no teacher, just pure instinct. Jack recognizes the melody, Claire de Lune. But the notes are incomplete, disconnected, like a puzzle with missing pieces. He watches her for a moment, then he sits down. "You are close," he says softly, "but music is not just about hitting the right keys. It is about feeling the space between the notes." The girl turns her head toward his voice. "Who are you?" she asks. "Just someone who used to play," Jack says. "What is your name?" "Lily." "Beautiful name. Do you come here often, Lily?" She nods. "My mom works here. She's always busy, so I wait and I play." Jack notices the bracelet on her wrist, silver, with words engraved on it. "Here with your heart." "That is a special bracelet," he says. Lily touches it gently. "My dad gave it to me before he left." Jack does not ask more. He understands loss. He understands loneliness. "Would you like me to show you something?" he asks. Lily smiles. "Yes, please." Jack places his hands on the keys. He plays the same melody, but this time it is complete. The notes flow like water, smooth, effortless, alive. Lily listens. Her face lights up. "It sounds like the ocean," she whispers. "Exactly," Jack says. "Music is not just sound. It is emotion. It is color. It is everything you feel but cannot see." "Can you teach me?" Lily asks. Jack hesitates. He looks at his worn hands, his janitor uniform. He does not belong here. But then he sees her smile, her hope. "Yes," he says, "I can teach you." From that night on, Jack comes to the 20th floor every evening after his shift ends. He brings no payment. He asks for nothing in return. He teaches Lily how to feel the music, how to let the melody guide her fingers, how to play not with her eyes but with her heart. She learns quickly. Her playing transforms. The disconnected notes become stories, become dreams. And for the first time in 10 years, Jack feels alive again. But he does not know that someone is watching. Someone who has been listening from the shadows. Someone who will soon change everything. Every night becomes a ritual. Jack finishes his cleaning duties at 11. Most employees have gone home. The building is quiet, empty, safe. He takes the elevator to the 20th floor, walks down the long hallway, opens the door to the music room, and there she is, Lily, always waiting, always smiling. "Uncle Jack," she calls out. She cannot see him, but she recognizes his footsteps. "Hello, little one," Jack says. He sits beside her at the piano. Tonight they practice scales, then arpeggios, then a simple piece by Chopin. Lily stumbles on a difficult passage. She frowns. "I cannot get it right," she says. Do not focus on perfection, Jack tells her. Focus on the feeling. What does this music make you feel? Lily thinks for a moment. It feels sad, but also hopeful. Then play it that way. Let your heart lead. Your fingers will follow. She tries again. This time the notes are softer, more delicate, more real. Jack smiles. Better. Much better. They talk between pieces. Lily asks questions about everything. Uncle Jack, what does a sunset sound like? Jack laughs. A sunset? Well, it sounds like peace. Like everything slowing down. If you listen close enough, you can almost hear the sky changing colors. I wish I could see colors, Lily says quietly. You do, Jack says. You just see them differently. You hear them. You feel them. That is a gift, Lily, not a limitation. She hugs him. Jack is surprised. He has not been hugged in years. Thank you for being my friend, she whispers. Jack feels something break inside his chest. Something warm, something he had lost forever. Always, he says, but their secret cannot last. One night, the building's security guard makes his rounds earlier than usual. He hears the piano. He opens the door. He sees Jack, a janitor, sitting with a child, alone, at night. What is going on here? The guard demands. Jack stands up quickly. I was helping her practice. Her? Helping her? You are a janitor. You have no business being in this room after hours. Please, Lily says. He is my teacher. He did not do anything wrong. I am reporting this, the guard says. He takes out his radio. The next morning, Jack is called into the manager's office. The manager is a tall man with cold eyes. His name is Richard. He does not like janitors. He does not like people who break rules. You were caught in the music room last night, Richard says, with a child, after hours. Do you understand how serious this is? I was teaching her piano, Jack explains. She asked me to. I did not mean any harm. You are paid to clean, not to play piano, not to interact with tenants, especially not children. But she was alone. She needed help. That is not your concern. Richard leans forward. This is your final warning. If I catch you in that room again, you are fired. Do you understand? Jack clenches his fists. He wants to argue, but he needs this job. He has bills. He has a daughter. Yes, sir, he says quietly. He turns to leave. But Richard is not done. People like you need to know their place, Richard says. You are a janitor, nothing more. Jack does not respond. He walks out. That evening, Jack does not go to the music room. He finishes his shift and goes straight home. But the next night, he hears the piano again. He stops outside the door. He should walk away. He should protect his job. But then he hears Lily's voice. Uncle Jack, are you there? His heart breaks. He opens the door. Lily is sitting at the piano. Tears run down her cheeks. I thought you left me, she says. Like my dad. Jack kneels beside her. I will never leave you, Lily, never. But the man said you cannot come back. Let me worry about that. Right now, let us play. They play together, one last time, but they are not alone. Outside the room, Richard stands with two other employees. He called them as witnesses. Caught you, he says, stepping inside. Jack stands. He knows what is coming. I told you to stay away. You are done. Pack your things and leave. The other employees whisper. Some look uncomfortable, others smirk. The janitor thought he was special. But then Lily does something unexpected. She grabs Jack's hand. She holds it tight. Please, do not take him away. He is the only one who sees me. Richard hesitates, but only for a moment. This is not negotiable. Security will escort you out. Jack looks at Lily one last time. He kneels down. Remember what I taught you, he whispers. Here with your heart. He places something in her hand, a small folded piece of paper, a phone number. If you ever need me, call. Then he walks away. Lily sits alone at the piano. Her small hands rest on the keys, and for the first time in weeks, she does not play. 3 days pass. Jack does not return to the building. He takes a job at a grocery store stocking shelves at night. The pay is worse. The hours are longer, but at least no one judges him. He thinks about Lily every day. He wonders if she is still playing, if she remembers what he taught her. He hopes she does. Meanwhile, on the 20th floor, something is changing. Clara Voss sits in her corner office. She is the CEO of Helios Group, 33 years old, sharp, driven, ruthless when necessary. She built this company from nothing. She sacrificed everything for success, including time with her daughter. Lily spends most evenings alone in the building. Clara tells herself it is temporary, that once this quarter ends, once this deal closes, she will have more time. But the quarters never end. The deals never stop. Tonight, Clara finishes a conference call at 9. She is exhausted. She rubs her temples and looks at the clock. Lily is downstairs in the music room, as always. Clara decides to check on her. She takes the elevator down, walks through the quiet hallway. She hears something unexpected. Piano music, but not just any music. It is Lily playing, and she sounds different, better, more confident. Clara opens the door slowly. Lily is alone at the piano. Her fingers move across the keys with grace, with feeling. She plays River Flows in You. Clara has never heard her daughter play like this. She steps back into the hallway. She does not want to interrupt. She just wants to listen. But then the music stops. "Mommy," Lily calls out. "Is that you?" Clara freezes. How did she know? She walks inside. "Yes, sweetheart. It is me." "I heard your heels," Lily says. "You always wear the tall ones." Clara smiles. She forgets sometimes how sharp her daughter's other senses are. "You played beautifully," Clara says. "When did you get so good?" Lily's face lights up. "Uncle Jack taught me. He said music is not about seeing the notes. It is about feeling them." "Uncle Jack?" "The janitor. He used to play with me every night, until they made him leave." Clara's chest tightens. "What do you mean they made him leave?" "Mr. Richards said he was not allowed to be here, that he was just a janitor, so they fired him." Clara's expression hardens. "Richard did what?" Before Lily can answer, Clara's phone rings. An investor. She has to take it. "Stay here, sweetheart. I will be right back." She steps into the hallway. The call lasts 20 minutes. By the time she finishes, she has forgotten the conversation. She walks back toward the music room, but she stops when she hears it. 2 pianos. Someone is playing with Lily. Clara's heart races. She moves quietly to the door. She looks through the small window. A man in a janitor uniform sits at the second piano. His back is to her, but his hands move with the skill of a professional. He is teaching Lily a duet. "Feel the rhythm," he says gently. "Do not rush. Let the music breathe." Lily laughs. It is a sound Clara has not heard in years. Pure joy. They play together. River Flows in You. The melody is hauntingly beautiful. Clara stands frozen. Tears stream down her face. This stranger, this janitor, he gave her daughter something she could not. He gave her happiness. The music ends. Lily claps her hands. "That was perfect, Uncle Jack." "You were perfect, Jack says. "I just followed your lead." Clara takes a breath. She pushes the door open. Both of them turn toward the sound. Jack sees her. His face goes pale. Clara Voss, the CEO, standing in front of him. He stands quickly. "I am sorry, I know I am not supposed to be here, but Lily called me. She asked me to come. I could not say no." Clara does not respond immediately. She studies him, his worn uniform, his calloused hands, his kind eyes. "Who are you?" she asks coldly. "Jack Rowan, ma'am. I used to work here, as a janitor. I was fired 3 days ago." "For what reason?" Jack hesitates. "For being in this room, with your daughter." Clara turns to Richard, who has just entered the hallway behind her. He must have been alerted by security. "Is this true?" she asks. "Yes, Ms. Voss," Richard says confidently. "He violated protocol. He had no authorization to interact with my daughter?" Richard falters. "I was protecting company policy." Clara's voice drops to ice. "You fired the man who was teaching my daughter piano, the man who made her smile for the first time in years. And you did not think to inform me?" I did not know she was your daughter. That makes it worse. Clara steps closer. You judged him based on his uniform, not his character. Richard has no response. Clara turns back to Jack. Why did you come back? You knew you could be arrested for trespassing. Jack looks at Lily, then back at Clara. Because she needed me, he says simply, and I do not abandon the people I care about. The room falls silent. Lily walks forward. She reaches for her mother's hand, then for Jack's. Mommy, she says softly, Uncle Jack taught me how to see your face with music. He said every person has a sound, and yours sounds like strength, and sadness, and love. Clara's tears fall freely now. She looks at Jack, really looks at him. You did this? You taught her all of this? I only showed her what was already inside her, Jack says. She did the rest. Clara wipes her eyes. She makes a decision. Do not leave, she says. Not yet. Jack nods slowly. Clara turns to Richard. Leave us, and report to my office first thing tomorrow morning. Richard's face goes red, but he leaves without a word. Clara kneels in front of Lily. She holds her daughter's face in her hands. I am sorry, she whispers. I have been so focused on work that I forgot what matters most. You. Lily hugs her. It is okay, Mommy. You are here now. Clara stands. She looks at Jack. Thank you, she says, for seeing her when I could not. Jack nods. She is a remarkable girl. Because of you. The three of them stand in the quiet music room. A CEO, a janitor, and a blind girl who brought them together. The next morning, Clara calls an emergency meeting. She summons every employee in the building, managers, assistants, security, janitors, everyone. They gather in the main atrium, hundreds of people, confused, nervous. Clara stands on the raised platform. Her presence commands silence. I want to tell you a story, she begins. 3 nights ago, a man was fired from this company. His name is Jack Rowan. He worked as a janitor on the night shift. People glance at each other. They remember. Some of them were there when he was escorted out. He was fired for spending time in the music room, for teaching a little blind girl how to play piano. That little girl is my daughter. Gasps ripple through the crowd. Clara continues. Jack did not know who she was. He did not do it for recognition, or money, or advancement. He did it because she was alone, and she needed someone to see her. She pauses. Her voice grows stronger. This company has forgotten something important. We have forgotten that value is not determined by title, that worth is not measured by salary, that sometimes the most important person in the building is not the one in the corner office. She gestures to the side entrance. Jack, would you join me, please? Jack walks onto the platform. He is not wearing his janitor uniform. Clara arranged for him to have a proper suit, but he still looks uncomfortable under so many eyes. The crowd is silent, watching. Clara turns to him. Jack Rowan sacrificed his job to help my daughter. He risked everything because it was the right thing to do. And for that, this company owes him more than an apology. She addresses the crowd again. Effective immediately, Jack Rowan is appointed as the music director for the Helios Foundation. He will lead our new program providing free music education to children with disabilities. The room erupts. Applause, cheers. People stand. Jack is stunned. He looks at Clara. I do not understand. You are not just anything, Clara says firmly. You are exactly what this company needs. What my daughter needs. In the back of the crowd, Richard stands stiff. His face is red. He knows what is coming. Clara's eyes find him. Richard Miller, step forward. He hesitates, then walks to the front. Every eye is on him. You judged a man by his uniform, Clara says. You dismissed him without investigating. You let your prejudice override your judgment. And worst of all, you made my daughter feel that her friend was disposable. Richard opens his mouth, but Clara raises her hand. You are being reassigned to the facilities management team, where perhaps you will learn what it means to be judged by your work instead of your title. The crowd murmurs. Some nod in approval. Richard's humiliation is complete. He walks off the platform, head down. The people who used to respect him now look away. Justice has been served. Clara turns back to Jack. Do you accept? Jack looks out at the sea of faces, then down at his hands. The same hands that scrubbed floors, that mopped hallways, that played music for a little girl who could not see. Yes, he says, I accept. The crowd cheers again, louder this time. Lily is brought onto the platform. She feels her way toward Jack. He takes her hand. She reaches into her pocket and pulls out her silver bracelet. This is for you, she says, because you taught me what it means. Here with your heart. Jack kneels. Lily slips the bracelet onto his wrist. The crowd goes silent. Many wipe their eyes. Clara watches them. Her daughter and the man who saved her. She smiles. A real smile. Not the corporate mask she wears every day. For the first time in years, she feels hope. 1 year later, the Helios Foundation Music Hall is packed. Parents, children, teachers, press. On stage, 30 children sit with instruments, violins, flutes, cellos, and in the center, 2 grand pianos. Jack stands at the podium. He wears a conductor's suit now, but his eyes still carry the same kindness. Beside one piano sits Lily. She is 10 now. Her fingers rest confidently on the keys. She wears a new bracelet. This one says, music is light. The lights dim. The audience quiets. Jack raises his baton. The children begin to play. It is an original composition, written by Jack, inspired by Lily. It is called The Things We Cannot See. The melody is beautiful, bittersweet, full of hope and longing and joy. Lily plays the lead piano part. Her fingers dance across the keys. She does not need to see the notes. She feels them, every single one. The audience watches in silence. Many cry. In the front row sits Clara. She holds her phone, recording every second. But she also watches with her own eyes. Really watches. She sees her daughter, not as the blind girl who needs protection, but as the artist she has become. The music swells, reaches its climax, then softens into a gentle ending. The final note hangs in the air. Silence, then thunderous applause. The children stand. They bow. Lily stands too. She turns toward the audience. She cannot see them, but she hears them. Jack steps off the podium. He walks to her piano. He takes her hand. Together they bow. The applause grows louder. Clara stands, tears streaming, clapping until her hands hurt. After the performance, the crowd mingles in the lobby. Jack stands with Lily and Clara. A reporter approaches. Mr. Rowan, what inspired you to create this program? Jack glances at Lily, then at Clara. I was once a man who lost his way, he says. I thought my music died with my wife, but then I met someone who reminded me that music is not about what we see. It is about what we feel, what we share, what we give to others. The reporter smiles. And what is your message to other people who feel lost? Jack thinks for a moment. That sometimes the most important moments in life happen when no one is watching, when there is no reward, no recognition, when you simply choose to do what is right because someone needs you. He looks down at the bracelet on his wrist. Here with your heart, he says, the rest will follow. The camera pans out. The music hall glows with warm light. Children laugh. Parents embrace. Music fills the air. And in the center of it all, 3 people stand together. A CEO who learned to see, a janitor who learned to hope, and a blind girl who taught them both how to hear. Subscribe if you believe music can heal what the eyes cannot.
You pathetic, delusional woman. Victor Ashford's voice thundered across Carnegie Hall as he towered over the trembling cleaning lady at the grand piano. Did you actually think you could waltz onto the most prestigious stage in classical music and embarrass yourself in front of people who actually matter? You're a janitor. You clean toilets and mop floors. What made you think for even 1 second that someone like you could touch an instrument worth more than you'll make in a lifetime? The silence that followed was deafening. 300 of New York's wealthiest elite held their breath, champagne glasses frozen mid-air, as they witnessed the world's most celebrated pianist unleash his fury on a middle-aged woman in a service uniform. Kimberly Shaw's voice cracked as tears streamed down her face, her calloused hands shaking so violently above the keys that the entire audience could see her humiliation from their seats. You just what? Victor roared, his face twisted with contempt. The crowd began to murmur uncomfortably. This had gone far beyond entertainment. This was public execution. He whirled back to Kimberly, jabbing his finger at the piano keys. Play something, anything, so these people can see how utterly talentless you really are. The humiliation was so complete, so devastating, that even some of the cruelest guests in the audience began to look away. But Kimberly Shaw remained at that piano, tears streaming down her face, her entire body trembling with the weight of 29 years of suppressed dreams and sacrificed hopes. But what Victor Ashford didn't know, what none of them knew, was that the woman standing before them wasn't just any cleaning lady. And the piece she was about to play would prove that sometimes the people we treat as invisible are the ones with the most extraordinary gifts of all. What happened next would not only end his career in the most spectacular fashion imaginable, but reveal a secret so shocking that it would leave everyone in that prestigious hall questioning everything they thought they knew about talent, sacrifice, and the true meaning of music. The woman they were humiliating had once been accepted to Juilliard, and she was about to remind the world exactly why. But to understand how we got to this moment of devastating cruelty, I need to take you back to where this incredible story began. Because what you're about to hear will make you question everything you think you know about judging people by their circumstances. And if you want to hear how this explosive confrontation turned into the most satisfying moment of justice ever witnessed, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. Trust me, you won't want to miss what comes next. To understand how we got to that devastating moment at Carnegie Hall, I need to take you back 37 years. To a small apartment in Queens, where 4-year-old Kimberly Shaw first touched piano keys. Her grandmother, Elena Vasquez, was a classically trained pianist who had fled Cuba in 1959, carrying nothing but her sheet music and dreams that had been shattered by revolution. Elena saw something special in little Kimberly from the moment her tiny fingers found the keys of the old upright piano that dominated their cramped living room. While other children played with toys, Kimberly would spend hours picking out melodies, her young mind instinctively understanding harmonies that took other students years to grasp. Mija, Elena would say, her weathered hands guiding Kimberly's small ones across the keys, music is not just sound, it is the language of the soul. No one can ever take that from you. Those words would prove prophetic in ways Elena could never have imagined. By age 8, Kimberly was playing Chopin nocturnes with a sophistication that left her teachers speechless. Her parents, Maria and Robert Shaw, worked double shifts, Maria as a hospital cleaner, Robert in construction, just to afford the lessons that their daughter's gift demanded. They saw music as Kimberly's ticket to a different life, a way out of the struggle that had defined their own existence. The Shaw family's modest Queens apartment became a shrine to Kimberly's talent. Awards and certificates covered every wall. The old upright piano, inherited from Elena, was polished daily despite the family's exhaustion. David, born when Kimberly was 12, would fall asleep each night to the sound of his sister practicing, her music becoming the soundtrack of his childhood. Elena died when Kimberly was 14, but not before making her granddaughter promise something that would haunt the rest of her life. Promise me, Mija, that you will never let anyone convince you that you don't belong in the world of music. Your gift is sacred. Kimberly had been accepted to Juilliard's pre-college program. She was 16, on the verge of her dreams becoming reality, when the phone call came that would destroy everything. Maria and Robert Shaw were driving home from David's school play when a drunk driver ran a red light. The impact killed them instantly. David and 16-year-old Kimberly were left standing in that hospital corridor, suddenly orphaned and facing a future that had just been ripped away from them. David was brilliant. He'd been accepted to Harvard on a full academic scholarship, but there was no money for living expenses, books, or anything beyond tuition. The choice Kimberly made that night would define the next 3 decades of her life. She could have pursued her music, could have taken the Juilliard scholarship, and left David to figure out his own path. But as she sat in that hospital waiting room, holding her little brother while he sobbed, she heard Elena's voice again. Music is the language of the soul. But love, she realized, was the language of sacrifice. Kimberly sold Elena's piano, the instrument that had been her world, her sanctuary, her connection to her grandmother's memory. She used the money to support David through Harvard, taking 3 jobs to make ends meet, cleaning offices at night, working in a diner during the day, and doing data entry on weekends. David never knew about the piano. Kimberly told him it had been damaged in a moving accident. She couldn't bear to let him know that his future had cost her everything she'd ever dreamed of. For 29 years, Kimberly lived with that choice. She watched from the sidelines as David became a brilliant surgeon, never knowing that his success had been built on his sister's shattered dreams. She'd catch herself sometimes, her fingers moving unconsciously as if playing invisible keys, muscle memory refusing to let go of what had once been her entire world. The loneliness was crushing. Every day she walked past music stores, concert halls, conservatories, carrying the weight of a talent that had nowhere to go. She'd lie awake at night, Elena's voice echoing in her memory. No one can ever take that from you. But they had taken it from her. Life had taken it from her, and she'd let it go willingly, because sometimes love requires the ultimate sacrifice. When Kimberly finally got the job at the Ashford Music Conservatory 5 years ago, it felt like fate was giving her a cruel joke. Here she was, surrounded by the world she'd given up, invisible to students who took for granted what she'd lost forever. But those late-night practice sessions weren't just about reclaiming her dreams. They were about staying connected to Elena, to her parents, to the girl she used to be. Every note she played in those empty hallways was a conversation with ghosts, a way of keeping alive the part of herself that the world had forced her to bury. The muscle memory was still there, the passion had never died, but 29 years of silence had left its mark. Her fingers had to relearn their grace, her heart had to remember how to trust that it was okay to dream again. Now let me paint you a picture of just how exclusive this world was that Kimberly found herself cleaning. The Ashford Music Conservatory wasn't just any music school. It's where New York's elite send their children to become the next generation of classical music royalty. We're talking about $80,000 a year in tuition. Students arrive in chauffeur-driven cars, carrying instruments worth more than most people's homes. The building itself was a marble monument to musical excellence, with portraits of famous graduates lining every wall. Kimberly knew every corner of this world. She'd cleaned every practice room, polished every piano, dusted every portrait of musical genius, but she'd never belonged to it. She was the help, the invisible woman who made sure their perfect world stayed spotless while being treated like she was less than human. The students would literally step around her as if she were furniture. Teenagers rolled their eyes when she had to clean around them, sighing dramatically as if her very presence was an inconvenience. Faculty members would look right through her, continuing their conversations about musical theory and technique as if she didn't exist. But the cruelest irony? Kimberly often knew more about the pieces these privileged students were struggling with than they did. She'd watch 18-year-olds butcher compositions she could have played flawlessly at 14, and she'd have to bite her tongue, continue mopping floors, and pretend she didn't notice their mistakes. And then there was Victor Ashford himself, the man who eventually orchestrated her public humiliation. At 38, Victor wasn't just the conservatory's star faculty member. He was a genuine celebrity in the classical music world. This man had performed with every major orchestra you could name. He had millions of social media followers who hung on his every post. He commanded $50,000 per performance, and venues would pay it gladly. But here's what made Victor truly dangerous. He wasn't just talented, he was sadistically cruel. He'd built his reputation not only on his extraordinary skill, but on his ability to destroy other musicians' confidence with a single cutting remark. He took pleasure in watching people crumble. He was particularly vicious to anyone he deemed beneath his status, and nobody was further beneath him than the cleaning staff. Victor had grown up privileged, the son of a famous violinist and a conductor. He'd never known struggle, never known sacrifice, never known what it felt like to have dreams deferred. His talent had been nurtured from birth, his path to success smoothed by family connections and inherited wealth. In his mind, musical ability was tied to social status. If you were cleaning floors, you obviously didn't have what it took to create art. The night everything changed started like any other. Kimberly was cleaning Victor's private studio, being extra careful around his personal items, her hands shaking with nerves as they always did when she had to work around him. Victor had been particularly cruel that week, accidentally spilling coffee for her to clean up, making cutting remarks about her appearance and intelligence. But fate had other plans. As she reached across his desk to dust, her elbow caught his coffee cup, sending it crashing to the floor. Hot coffee splashed everywhere, staining his expensive sheet music and pooling on the marble floor. She frantically tried to clean up the mess, tears of fear and embarrassment streaming down her face. The sheet music that was ruined included an original manuscript, irreplaceable and worth thousands of dollars. But that's when Victor walked in. He caught her there, on her hands and knees, desperately trying to salvage his ruined papers. And that's when he noticed something. She was lingering near his piano, her eyes drawn to the keys like a moth to flame. In her panic and distress, she'd unconsciously started humming the melody from the ruined manuscript, note perfect, despite only having glimpsed it for seconds. With that trademark smirk of his, Victor asked her mockingly, "Do you play?" There was such condescension in his voice, such certainty that he was about to embarrass someone who had no business even thinking about music. Kimberly, in her quiet way, admitted she was learning. And that's when Victor erupted in laughter. Not just a chuckle, but full-blown cruel laughter that echoed off the marble walls like a slap. He called her pathetic, delusional, a joke. He told her that people like her would never understand real music, that she was wasting everyone's time with her ridiculous fantasies. He made it clear that she was nothing more than hired help who should know her place. "People like you," he sneered, "don't make music. You clean up after the people who do." The humiliation was so complete, so devastating, that Kimberly's face burned crimson with shame. But there was something in her eyes that night that Victor missed completely. Yes, her face was streaked with tears of humiliation, but there was something else there too. Something fierce that flickered in her eyes. Elena's voice, perhaps, reminding her that music belonged to everyone. What Victor didn't know was that he just insulted someone whose musical knowledge far exceeded his own students. Someone whose talent had once been recognized by Juilliard itself. After his brutal humiliation, Kimberly stayed late that night, practicing with desperate intensity through her tears. And that's when I learned the truth about who she really was. But Victor's cruelty was just beginning. He started tormenting her deliberately, systematically. He'd accidentally spill things for her to clean up, watching with amusement as she scrambled to fix his messes. He'd make cutting remarks about her appearance, her intelligence, her worth as a human being. The psychological warfare escalated. Victor would leave complex musical compositions on his piano stand, then watch as Kimberly's eyes were inevitably drawn to them. He'd catch her unconsciously fingering the melodies, and would explode in rage, accusing her of contaminating his music with her presence. Worst of all, he'd leave his studio door open so she could hear him mocking her to his wealthy students and donors. He'd tell a group of potential benefactors that even the janitor thinks she can play piano, getting cruel laughs at Kimberly's expense while she stood in the hallway, forced to listen to every word. "It's pathetic, really," Victor would say, his voice carrying into the corridor where Kimberly worked. These people think that just because they can hum a tune, they understand the complexity of classical music. It's like a janitor thinking they can perform surgery because they've watched medical shows. The emotional torture was relentless. Students started joining in, mimicking Victor's cruelty. They'd hum classical pieces when she walked by, then burst into laughter. They'd ask her mockingly if she was practicing when they saw her near the pianos. They'd leave fake sheet music titled Cleaning Lady's Concerto where she'd find it. One particularly cruel student, influenced by Victor's behavior, once asked Kimberly to play a broom like a violin, filming it for social media. The humiliation was constant, crushing, designed to break her spirit completely. But here's what Victor didn't understand. Every cruel word, every humiliation, every laugh at her expense was only making Kimberly stronger. Each night, alone with the pianos she'd been told she had no right to touch, she'd channel her pain into her practice. Elena's voice would guide her through the darkness. Music is the language of the soul, Mia. No one can take that from you. Her practice sessions became more intense, more desperate. She started arriving at work early just to get more time with the pianos, her fingers bleeding from the intensity of her practice. She was learning increasingly difficult pieces, studying the way Victor taught, absorbing his techniques even as he treated her like dirt. She'd watch his masterclasses from the shadows, memorizing every nuance of his instruction, every technical detail he shared with his privileged students. Ironically, Victor was making her a better pianist through his very efforts to destroy her. Her fingers, once clumsy from years of manual labor, were finding their grace again. She was dreaming of piano music, living and breathing it in a way that consumed her entire being. The woman who cleaned these instruments by day was becoming a master of them by night, pouring all her pain and longing into every note. The muscle memory was coming back stronger than ever. 29 years of suppressed talent was flowing through her fingers like a dam breaking. She wasn't just relearning pieces she'd known as a teenager, she was discovering new depths of expression born from decades of life experience, loss, and longing. And then Victor made his biggest mistake. He discovered that Kimberly had been using the conservatory pianos after hours. His rage was explosive, terrifying. He threatened to have her fired, to make sure she never worked anywhere in the city again, unless she got down on her knees and admitted she was not good enough to be in the same building as real musicians. The humiliation he demanded was complete. He wanted her to beg, to grovel, to admit her worthlessness in front of other staff members he'd called to witness her degradation. He wanted her to publicly renounce any connection to music, to acknowledge that she was nothing more than hired help who had overstepped her bounds. "Get on your knees," he demanded, his voice echoing through the empty hallway. "Admit that you're not a musician, that you'll never be a musician, and that you don't deserve to touch these instruments." For a moment, Kimberly wavered. The 16-year-old girl who had given up everything for her brother's future whispered that maybe Victor was right. Maybe she should know her place. Maybe dreams were luxuries she couldn't afford. But then Elena's voice came through, stronger than ever. "Your gift is sacred, Mia." Kimberly refused to back down. Through her tears, in her quiet way, she told him she had every right to be there during her work hours. "Music doesn't belong to you," she whispered. "It belongs to anyone who loves it enough to sacrifice for it." How dare this nobody defy him? How dare she refuse to admit her place in his carefully constructed hierarchy? That's when Victor decided he would destroy her once and for all. And his plan would unfold at the most prestigious venue in New York, in front of an audience that could make or break careers with a single opinion. He had no idea that his cruel joke would backfire in the most spectacular way possible. The night Victor would execute his cruel plan arrived with all the grandeur you'd expect from New York's elite. The conservatory's annual fundraising gala was being held at Carnegie Hall itself, the most prestigious venue in classical music. This wasn't just any event. This was where millionaires came to be seen, where careers were made with a single performance, where the classical music world's power brokers gathered to decide who deserved their attention. And Victor Ashford was the star of the show. Kimberly was assigned to work at the event. She was in her simple black service uniform, moving through the crowd like a shadow, serving champagne to women dripping in diamonds and men whose watches cost more than most people's cars. The guests barely acknowledged her existence, treating her like a piece of moving furniture. Some even snapped their fingers at her dismissively when they wanted their glasses refilled. She was invisible again, just another member of the help, ensuring these elite guests had everything they needed. You could see the pain in her eyes as she watched from the wings, while Victor commanded that legendary stage. His performance was flawless, technically perfect, commanding, everything you'd expect from a world-class pianist. The thunderous applause that followed seemed to inflate his ego even further. The crowd hung on his every word as he spoke between pieces, charming them with anecdotes about his latest performances with the London Symphony or his upcoming tour of Europe. Victor was in his element, basking in the adoration of 300 of New York's most influential music patrons. The champagne was flowing, the praise was intoxicating. During intermission, as guests mingled and discussed the magnificent performance they'd just witnessed, Victor spotted Kimberly refilling champagne glasses near the back of the hall. Here was his chance for the ultimate humiliation, not in some empty conservatory hallway, but in front of everyone who mattered in the classical music world. This would be the final blow that would crush her spirit completely and prove his superiority once and for all. What happened next shocked everyone. Victor stepped back onto the stage and called for everyone's attention. With that practiced charm that had won over audiences worldwide, he announced that he wanted to take a moment to celebrate the hardworking people who made the conservatory possible. The crowd applauded politely, thinking this was a generous gesture from their star performer. How thoughtful of him to acknowledge the staff. What a gracious man. Then he called Kimberly by name, asking her to come up on stage. A color drained from Kimberly's face as she realized what was happening. Her hands started trembling uncontrollably, and I could see her fighting back tears of terror. This was a trap, and she knew it. But what choice did she have? 300 pairs of eyes were on her. Victor was gesturing encouragingly with that false smile, and the crowd was applauding, what they thought was a sweet moment of recognition. She walked onto that stage like someone walking to their execution, each step heavier than the last. Her face was flushed with shame and fear, her breathing shallow and panicked. Her lips moved slightly. She was praying, or maybe hearing Elena's voice, one last time. Victor introduced her with what sounded like warmth, but was actually pure venom. "This is Kimberly Shaw, one of our most dedicated cleaning staff members." Pause for polite applause. "And she has quite an interesting hobby. She thinks she can play piano." The polite applause turned to uncomfortable murmurs, then barely suppressed giggles. She could see people exchanging glances, some covering their mouths to hide their smirks. Suddenly, everyone understood that this wasn't the heartwarming moment they'd thought it was. This was public execution, disguised as entertainment. "Now, I don't want to embarrass our dear Kimberly," Victor continued, his voice dripping with false concern, "but she's been practicing on our conservatory instruments after hours. She seems to think she has some musical ability." The crowd's discomfort was growing, but their fascination was stronger. They were about to witness a public humiliation, and the voyeuristic appeal was too strong to resist. With his tone dripping with condescension, Victor suggested that Kimberly should play something simple for everyone. "After all," he said with that cruel smile, "this is Carnegie Hall. Surely our Kimberly can manage a little tune for our distinguished guests. Maybe Twinkle Twinkle Little Star? Or perhaps Happy Birthday?" The crowd erupted in laughter at his suggestion. The humiliation was complete and devastating. Kimberly stood at that magnificent grand piano, her hands trembling visibly, tears streaming down her face, as 300 of New York's elite waited for her to make a complete fool of herself. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by whispered comments and barely contained laughter. "This is going to be painful," someone whispered loudly enough for everyone to hear. "I can't watch," another guest said, though they were all staring intently. "The poor woman," came a voice dripping with false sympathy. "Someone should stop this." $5 says she can't even play chopsticks," someone else wagered, earning cruel chuckles. Victor crossed his arms and stepped back, absolutely certain he was about to end this delusional woman's musical pretensions forever. In front of an audience that could destroy careers with a whisper, he was about to prove once and for all that people like Kimberly had no place in his world. The anticipation of her complete humiliation was written all over his face. This was his moment of triumph. The cleaning lady would be exposed as the fraud he'd always known her to be, and his own superiority would be unquestionably established. But what happened next shattered every assumption in that room. Kimberly stood at that piano for what felt like an eternity. One could see her internal struggle, the fear, the shame, the voice telling her to run. But then something shifted in her posture. She straightened her shoulders, wiped the tears from her eyes, and placed her hands on the keys. She began to play Chopin's Ballade, and I need you to understand just how audacious this choice was. This isn't some simple melody or basic piece. This is one of the most technically demanding compositions in the entire classical repertoire. It's a piece that separates the amateurs from the masters, a piece that even seasoned concert pianists approach with respect and caution. But Kimberly's choice was deliberate. This was the piece her grandmother had been teaching her the day she died. This was the piece she'd been practicing the night before her parents' accident. This was the piece that represented everything she'd lost and everything she'd found again. The first notes rang out with such beauty and precision that the crowd's nervous chatter died instantly. The cruel laughter stopped mid-breath. But this wasn't just technical perfection. This was something far more powerful. Every single note carried the weight of her lost dreams, her years of sacrifice, her quiet determination, and her refusal to be broken by Victor's cruelty. Faces in the audience transformed from vicious amusement to shock to something approaching awe. These were people who had heard the world's greatest pianists perform. They knew real talent when they heard it, and what they were hearing was extraordinary. Raw emotion and technical mastery combined in a way that left them speechless. As the piece progressed, Kimberly's playing told her story without words. The tender opening spoke of childhood dreams and grandmother's love. The turbulent middle section carried all the pain of loss and sacrifice, and the triumphant finale declared that dreams deferred are not dreams denied. As Kimberly's performance built toward its climactic finale, Victor's face was terrible. The smug confidence was melting away like ice in the sun, replaced by disbelief, then growing horror, then pure terror. His mouth fell open, his face went pale, and his hands started shaking. He realized that Kimberly wasn't just good. She was extraordinary, better than many of his students, perhaps better than him. The very foundation of his superiority was crumbling before his eyes. When the final note faded into silence, the audience erupted in a standing ovation that went on for minutes. Not polite applause, thunderous, genuine appreciation for what they'd just witnessed. People were wiping tears from their eyes, shouting, "Bravo," with genuine emotion. Victor tried to maintain his composure, but I could see his hands shaking violently, his carefully constructed superiority crumbling to dust before our eyes. And then something happened that no one expected. An elderly man in the front row stood up. James Patterson, the world-famous conductor and director emeritus of the New York Philharmonic, a living legend in classical music. He announced that he'd been searching for a pianist with exactly that level of emotional depth and technical mastery. Right there, in front of everyone, he offered Kimberly a chance to audition for a solo performance with the New York Philharmonic. The crowd gasped audibly. Victor's face went completely white, then green, as if he was about to be sick. The humiliation he'd planned for Kimberly had just become his own worst nightmare. But that wasn't all. As the applause continued, Margaret Worthington, the elderly billionaire widow who was the conservatory's largest donor, stood up from her front row seat. Her face was stone cold with fury. "I've been watching this entire display," she announced in a voice that cut through the noise like a blade. "And I am disgusted by what I've witnessed here tonight. Mr. Ashford, your behavior toward this remarkable woman is despicable and has no place in any institution I support." The room fell silent. Amelia Worthington's word was law in New York's cultural scene. Her family foundation had donated over $50 million to the conservatory over the years. She continued, her voice growing stronger. Effective immediately, the Worthington Foundation is withdrawing all financial support from this institution until Victor Ashford is removed from his position. Furthermore, I will be personally ensuring that every major cultural organization in the city knows exactly what kind of man they would be hiring. But then came the twist that nobody saw coming. A young man in an expensive suit pushed through the crowd toward the stage. I recognized him immediately. Dr. Liam Shaw, the brilliant young physician who had recently been featured on the cover of Medical Weekly for his groundbreaking work in cardiac surgery. He was also one of the conservatory's most generous young donors, having established a scholarship fund just the year before. "Excuse me," he called out, his voice carrying across the hall. "That woman you just humiliated is my sister." The silence that followed was deafening. Victor's face went from pale to green to completely gray. All eyes turned to David as he climbed onto the stage. 29 years ago, David continued, his voice breaking with emotion, our parents died in a car accident. I was 17 and had just been accepted to Harvard on a full academic scholarship. But there was no money for living expenses, for books, for anything beyond tuition. He looked at Kimberly with tears in his eyes. What I didn't know until last week was that my sister sold the piano our grandmother had left her, the one she'd been playing since she was 4 years old, to give me that money. She dropped out of high school, took 3 jobs, and sacrificed her entire future so I could become a doctor. The crowd was completely silent now, hanging on every word. I've spent the last decade trying to find a way to thank her for the sacrifice I didn't even know she'd made. And now I find out that while I've been living my dream as a surgeon, she's been cleaning floors and being humiliated by people like you. Liam turned to face Victor directly. You want to know about worthiness? About who belongs in the world of music? My sister has more talent in her little finger than you'll ever have, and more heart than everyone in this room combined. If you've ever witnessed someone's entire worldview collapse in real time, hit that subscribe button right now, because what happens next will restore your faith in justice. Dr. Harrison Fletcher, the conservatory's board chairman, took the stage with a face like thunder. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the board of directors, I want to apologize for this shameful display. Mr. Pike Ashford's employment with this institution is terminated effective immediately. The words hit Victor like physical blows. His mouth opened and closed soundlessly, like a fish gasping for air. His career, his reputation, his entire identity, all of it was crumbling in real time. But Amelia Worthington wasn't finished. "Miss Shaw," she called out, "I would like to personally fund your musical education and career development. No one with your talent should ever have to clean another floor." Liam stepped forward. "Mrs. Worthington, that's incredibly generous, but please, let me handle my sister's future. I owe her at least that much." He turned to Kimberly, taking her hands in his. "Kim, I'm so sorry I never knew. I'm sorry you've been carrying this alone. But it's over now. I'm buying you the best piano money can buy, and you're never cleaning another floor as long as I live." Kimberly gracefully accepted both offers, thanking the crowd in her quiet, dignified way, tears of joy now streaming down her face. As she prepared to leave the stage, Victor tried to approach her, perhaps to apologize, or maybe to somehow claim credit for discovering her talent, his desperation palpable. But Kimberly looked at him with quiet strength and said just 6 words that would echo in that hall forever. "Music belongs to everyone, Victor. It always has." She walked away with her brother's arm around her, leaving Victor standing alone as the crowd buzzed with excitement about the discovery of this remarkable pianist. Victor stood there, humiliated, exposed, his cruelty laid bare for everyone to see. The man who had built his reputation on destroying others had just been destroyed himself, not just embarrassed, but professionally ruined. Within a week, the story had gone viral. Videos of Kimberly's performance and Victor's humiliation spread across social media. The classical music world's most prestigious institutions released statements distancing themselves from Victor's behavior. His upcoming concerts were canceled. His recording contracts were terminated. His social media followers abandoned him in droves. 6 months later, Kimberly performed her debut concert with the New York Philharmonic to a completely sold-out crowd. David was in the front row, beaming with pride as his sister took her bow. At the backstage afterward, there they were together, brother and sister, looking at a photo of their parents and Elena, David whispering, "They would be so proud of both of us." As for Victor, he tried to rebuild his career in smaller venues, but the damage was permanent. No major orchestra would hire him. No prestigious conservatory would have him. He eventually left New York entirely, forced to take a teaching position at a small community college in a town where nobody knew his story. This story isn't just about one woman's triumph over cruelty. It's about how talent and dreams can survive even the worst circumstances. It's about the power of family, sacrifice, and love. It's about how sometimes the people we overlook, the ones we dismiss as unimportant, are the ones with the most extraordinary gifts waiting to be discovered. If you enjoyed this story, like, subscribe, and share with others so they can learn too. See you in our next video.